The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, you're me. Louie T, welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, a couple of items that I wanted to knock down tonight. Not a ton to discuss. However, as we always do, let's get to the house cleaning, if you will. So, we thought we had another member added to Durante Jones's defensive staff. It felt like a guy that made a ton of sense. Philosophically, he aligned with Durante Jones, his messaging, how he coaches, how he teaches. Everything seemed to be like a perfect match. I had made sure, and I put specific emphasis on this. I made sure to say that this was not a done deal. We could not confirm this. None of the local beat reporters had confirmed this. None of the national reporters had, or insiders had reported this. So I kept saying, if this is hypothetically, if, because we couldn't be sure. This is a source that we don't know, right? So, and not to say that Matt Zenith didn't have this correct. Zenith might have had this spot on, and Jake Olsen had a change of heart. But here's what we know, right? So, back on the 13th of February, Matt Zenitz, who works for CBS Sports, so it's not like he's some Joe Schmo on the interweb trying to hit you with a gotcha. He works for a reputable outlet, right? CBS Sports. So he tweeted this out. The Commanders are expected to hire LSU safety coach Jake Olsen. Sources tell CBS Sports. He has worked at LSU the past 2 seasons and helped the Tigers finish this past season ranked top 25 nationally in scoring defense. He seems to be a guy on the up and up. Really smart, bright, has a teaching background. Again, he checks off all the Durante Jones boxes. And then cherry on top, these two cross paths in Durante Jones's lone season at LSU. So there is a working history there. So then we start talking about him. You know, you start going and, you know, finding things. And we didn't know exactly like what his title would be if he ended up here. And I've said, for the purposes of this conversation, we're just going to assume that this is legitimate, right? Remember, I said that hypothetically speaking, we're just going to assume, even though we don't know. But you fast forward to yesterday, and this was reported by Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports. LSU Safeties coach Jake Olsen has now decided to stay put with the Tigers after initially being set to leave for a job with the Commanders, sources tell CBS Sports. Lane Kiffin and LSU worked hard to keep him after he initially accepted the job and now is set to keep him at LSU. So I don't know if they truly valued him and they didn't want to let him go, if he knew he had value, tested the waters to promote a pay increase, or if he legitimately was going to bolt for the NFL, you know, trying his hand at the NFL game before Lane Kiffin swooped in with all that new money that LSU is probably getting with Lane Kiffin. They were able to offer him, you know, something that made him feel a lot more comfortable sticking it out at LSU. Remember, it's a new staff, you know, a lot of change. He may have wanted to get out of there, and then Lane Kiffin coerced him with a blank check to stick around and continue to help that program on the defensive side of the football. Whatever the case may be, it really is irrelevant, right? Here's what we know. Jake Olsen isn't going to be a member of the Commanders staff. So what I do feel like this has done, if nothing else, is it's confirmed that Durante Jones isn't done reshaping his defensive staff. Now, remember, we still have one vacancy open for sure on the defensive side, and that's the defensive pass game coordinator. Jason Simmons left to go to Pittsburgh. No one else has filled that void thus far. And so I was under the assumption if Jake Olsen was coming here, that was going to be his position. A lot of you kind of helped me figure that out. Shout out to you guys in the chat for kind of narrowing down what his job title could have been here. So they're not done yet, I don't think. I don't think they're done quite yet filling out this staff. And we'll see if they continue to hunt after a new defensive pass game coordinator. But the thing that I love is that Durante Jones continues to poke and prod and search through the collegiate ranks. So many of you were like, you think they would go to the college game? And I'm like, DQ's not doing that. He's not going to the college game. Even though that's something that we've advocated for, he's not going to the college game. Well, Durante Jones is clearly. And so I love the approach. And we'll see if they go back to the college well once again to try and track down someone to come help on the defensive side of the football. And we'll continue to monitor that situation. So let's get to some free agency business. And let's start with something non-Commanders related that is of interest to us, however, as Commanders fans. So here recently, there was an article written by former Commander or Redskins safety Matt Bowen, who works for ESPN, does a tremendous job covering the NFL for ESPN, does the NFL Edge matchup show with Greg Cosell, and he does a really good job, right? Does Matt Bowen, one of the guys that I think truly gets it as an analyst, former player. So he was talking about his top 50 free agents. He made a list of his top 50 free agents and what their best fits would be, okay? So I'm going to give you the three players that he feels like are really good fits for the Commanders and where they rank on his list here in a bit. But I'll just run through some of the names quickly just to give you a feel for where some of these guys are. Number one on his list isn't a surprise. It's Trey Hendrickson. And he thinks that his best fit is the Indianapolis Colts. As a matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and share my screen with you. That way, I don't have to just pull it up on my screen. So we can just go ahead and do it that way. So let me share my screen with you, and you can see the article for yourself. And I will enlarge this, and I think this should be good for us. Yeah, I think you guys should be able to see everything with this font, or this size font, I should say. Let me check now, and voila. All right. So let's go through his list quickly, and then I will stop you on the three guys that he has being great fits here in Washington. But I do want to start with a non-Commanders related topic that is of interest to us. However, so Trey Hendrickson, as you can see, he has Indianapolis being his best fit. That makes a ton of sense, right? That makes a ton of sense. Stay in the Midwest, a team that is competing. I don't really know for what necessarily, because I don't think you can win anything with Daniel Jones as your starting quarterback, but it makes a ton of sense for him to go to Indy, right? That seems like a move that they would make. George Pickens is where I want to stop for a second. So he has him as the second best free agent on his list of top 50 free agents this offseason. And of course, Dallas is his best fit. He writes, all signs point to Pickens staying in Dallas after his breakout season in 2025, and it could happen with the franchise tag. With his explosive playability, 22 catches of 20 yards or more, Pickens can win on the boundary as a 3-level target opposite of CeeDee Lamb, giving Dak Prescott 2 premier targets in Coach Brian Schottenheimer's system. All of that is fine and dandy, but I was listening to Jesse Palmer talk today. It wasn't Jesse Palmer. It was it is Palmer. It's not Jesse. Jesse's the quarterback. I can't think of his name. It's something Palmer, but he was talking today. And he threw out something that is really interesting because this is such a Jerry Jones move. Pickens obviously is going to demand top dollar, as he should. Jerry is going to try and lowball him as a number 2 wide receiver. And if it is number 1 money, it's going to be low-end number 1 money, which Pickens isn't going for. They're going to hit an impasse. It's going to get messy because it always does with Jerry. Just like the Michael Parsons situation got messy, and it shouldn't have, and turned ugly to the point of no return, and now he's a Green Bay Packer. What if George Pickens is franchise tagged and then the Cowboys look to move him? That is a realistic possibility. Now, I'm not saying this for the purposes of us being interested in trading for him, because we're not in a position. Anybody that wants the Commanders to be in on anybody that's available via trade, you're out of your mind this offseason. We don't have the draft capital to be trading away draft choices for players. We just don't. We need as many picks as humanly possible. So trading away picks to acquire players is the antithesis of what we should be doing this offseason, what Adam Peters is probably going to do this offseason. So I'm only saying this because I want George Pickens the hell up out of the damn division, if at all possible. He's a menace. And on that team with CeeDee Lamb, they form one of the best duos in all of football. It'd be great to get him out of the division. If Dallas wants to stockpile more draft picks, please be my guest. But getting Pickens out of Dallas would be excellent. We're this close to getting A.J. Brown out of the division. It would be nice if George Pickens followed him out of the door as well. Jerry's dumb enough to do it. And remember, they traded a 3rd-round pick for George Pickens, did the Cowboys. If they could somehow fetch 2 2s, a 1, which is very plausible, from someone to get George Pickens, that's a win for Dallas in terms of flipping what you spent in terms of a 3rd-round pick and what you got in return after 1 year of service, and then moving on from a guy that you may not have planned on paying in the first place. Now, if I'm Dallas, I just want the player. Like, forget the picks. It's hard to find a George Pickens in the draft. I just want to keep the player. But you know Jerry, he's a piece of work. And he thinks he knows what's best. And if George Pickens' number gets a bit too high for Jerry, and George Pickens is insistent on that number and he's not moving, I could see Jerry, instead of moving the number, moving George Pickens. Just something to think about. It's a little bit of food for thought. You go ahead and do the dishes. Tyler Lindenbaum, Daniel Jones, Jalen Phillips, another NFC East player. He's going back to Philadelphia. I already told you he's another, franchise tag candidate that I fully expect the Eagles either to work out a long-term deal with him prior to the franchise tag deadline or slap him with the franchise tag while they try to work something out. He's not going to get away, not after they gave away a 3rd-round pick for him. Alec Pierce, I know a lot of you are interested in Alec Pierce. He has his best fit as the Tennessee Titans. I could see it. You stay in the division. Brian Daboll is there. Cam Ward. Nobody has more money to spend this offseason than the Tennessee Titans. So if you want to get into a bidding war, you're not going to beat them. If they truly want Alec Pierce, you're not going to find a better receiver on the market this year. It's not a great crop of wide receivers in free agency. He probably heads, not probably, we've gotten the number 6. He's the first receiver to show up on this list after George Pickens, who won't be available. He's going to be the most sought after receiver that's available come free agency. And here's another interesting tidbit that I wanted to throw at you. And I need to actually y'all to see my face real quick when I ask y'all this. So Alec Pierce, there's a chance. This is something else that I heard today. There's a chance that Indianapolis is like, yeah, we want to keep Alec. We don't want to let Alec go. He's younger. He's dynamic. What if they cut ties with Marvin? What if they cut ties with Michael Pittman Jr. I don't know why I want to call him Marvin so bad. Michael Pittman Jr. How old is Michael Pittman Jr. anyway? I'm intrigued. Michael Pittman Jr. Let's see, Michael Pittman Jr. is 28 years old. He'll be 29 in October. So he's not super old, but 28, gonna be 29 in October. But he's got one of those games where, it's not gonna, like, age isn't going to diminish what he is. He's a big body receiver that can box people out, make, plays on the football. He's coming off of, quote unquote, a down season, one of his lowest outputs from a yardage standpoint, only 784. I say only 784. 784 yards on this team might have led the team in receiving, for all I know. I don't know what Devo's numbers look like. Obviously, Ertz didn't get to that level this year. 784. If it wasn't tops on this team, it might have been right behind whatever Devo did this year. So I just throw out Michael Pittman Jr. because he feels like a cap casualty. He feels like a guy that the Colts owe a bunch of money to this year. If they, move on from him, they save themselves quite a bit of cap. And they move on from a guy that I don't necessarily know if they see a future with him or not. And then it gives them the flexibility to maybe bring back Alec Pierce on the franchise tag while they try to work out something long-term with him. Just a little food for thought. Again, another name that you could add potentially to the list. I told you, you're going to see that list grow of guys that aren't necessarily on the list of free agents. But as things continue to happen, as we continue to see the deadline get closer and closer, you can see some of these guys becoming cap casualties and end up in that free agent pool. Let's get back to the list, though. So, Breece Hall back with the Jets. I as time passes, I think I see the Jets holding on to Breece Hall. They don't have very much out there. The two guys that they have on offense, and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, I don't see them. Remember, Garrett Wilson was a hot name. Are they going to trade him? They don't have anything out there. So the two guys that they do have, I think they're going to hold on to them. So Rasheed Walker, Adafe Owe, again, another guy that was traded before the deadline last year, played really well, got 7.5 sacks with the Chargers, ended up with double digits on the season. Again, when you trade for a guy before the deadline, it's hard to envision that guy, especially if he plays well for you. It's hard to envision for that guy not remaining with your team moving forward. Braden Smith, John Franklin Myers is a guy that I'm very interested in. I would love him here in Washington. Falcons for him. Alontae Taylor is a guy that many of you brought up, and he is, I believe, the first corner on the list, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Nope, that's the first corner to show up. So he believes that Alontae Taylor is the best corner available in free agency. That's not my pick, but he has the Rams as the best fit for him. I could see that, by the way. They definitely need some help in their secondary for sure. And then we get to 13 in Quay Walker, and this is the first time the Commanders' name shows up as the best team fit per Matt Bowen. And it reads, with veteran linebacker Bobby Wagner also hitting free agency, Walker could fill a need for the Commanders. After posting 128 tackles with the Packers last season, he has the traits to fit really well in Dan Quinn's defense. Now, Dan Quinn is not going to be running his defense, but Quay Walker can fit in any defense that we're trying to run. You know how I feel about Quay Walker. I've been talking about him for months. Paired with Frankie Louvu, Walker could be set up on pressures as he has the second level speed to track the ball or close throwing windows. Washington would get younger and faster on defense with this move. This is a guy that I've been targeting for quite some time. A little cuckoo, will pick up the occasional personal foul penalty. Don't care. Sign me up. Okay. In the moment, it might piss you off, but the talent is undeniable. And if we come away with the guys that Matt Bowen says are the best fits in Washington, I will be a very happy man because it's the guys that we've been talking about, some of them at least. So that's number 13 on his list. Number 14 is a guy that we've talked about a ton. You know how I feel about Riq Woolen. I think he's the best corner available in free agency. He has the Jets as the best fit. However, if you read closely, the Jets allowed 57 completions of 20 yards or more in 2025, seventh most in the league. Adding Woolen, a 6'5" corner with high-end physical tools and speed, fits under Coach Aaron Glenn's defense. This unit wants to play man coverage, and Woolen has 12 interceptions and 36 pass breakups in his 4-year career in Seattle. I also like the Commanders as a fit. So don't sleep on Riq Woolen as a guy that could end up in Washington. Now, I will say, with the scheme that we're running with Durante Jones, you don't have to invest heavily in the cornerback position. You don't want a bum out there, obviously. And if you want to be able to play some man coverage, you're going to need a guy that can run and do those things. Riq Woolen fits that bill. But I've already told you the one position that I feel like the Vikings were able to kind of get by with based off of the defensive pressures that they were able to call and play was the cornerback position. So again, you have Trey Amos. Mikey Sainristil could play the role that Byron Murphy has played for them over the last couple of seasons. And I could see them cutting a corner here and not going high-end corner, but instead going and finding a much cheaper option at corner, maybe an actual true nickel, because maybe Mikey Sainristil is not that. And then, adding another veteran somewhere along the line and then drafting a guy late in the draft, 6th, 7th round and calling it a day, right? I could see that happening, but he does have Riq Woolen as a guy that fits the Commanders. So according to Matt Bowen, the number 13 and 14 best free agents could both be great fits in Washington. I like it a lot. Mike Evans feels like he's played his last snap in Tampa, which is crazy. Buffalo would be a great fit for him. I couldn't think of a better fit for him. That's exactly what they need, right? and he's chasing a chip. Obviously, he's already won one, but he wants another one. That's the only reason he's going to continue to play. He's not playing for the money. So that would make a ton of sense. Jalen Watson is another really talented corner that I wouldn't mind the Commanders going after. Malik Willis, Dolphins would make a ton of sense. The Dolphins just hired a brand new head coach, general manager, etc. All of them came from Green Bay. So Malik Willis coming over from Green Bay would make a ton of sense to be the starter in Miami as they move on from Tua Tagovailoa. Kenneth Walker III. So something interesting on him really quickly while we're on the subject matter. So I remember a Seahawks fan telling me this maybe last year or 2 years ago, but it stuck with me. He said that John Schneider, their general manager, very rarely uses the franchise tag. And if I'm not mistaken, both times he's used it, it was on a kicker. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what the Seahawks fan told me. And I was like, you're shitting me. I went and looked it up and it was true. I say this to tell you that I think the other day I was like, I think the Seahawks might use the franchise tag on K9. They're not going to use the franchise tag on K9. John Schneider, that's just not his MO. I believe he's going to be available. I really do. I don't think we're going to ante up, though. But I've been saying this. I just want a chance. What they do with it is up to them. I just want a chance. I think we're going to get that chance. I don't think Seattle's going to franchise tag him. If they did, it would be a far cry from what John Schneider's MO has been throughout his almost 2 decades as the Seahawks general manager. It would be a far cry from what he has done in the past. Devin Lloyd, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. See him going back to Jacksonville. Could also see him cashing in and getting a big payday elsewhere. I'm not interested in Devin Lloyd, though. I'm not. And then we hit number 20, Isaiah Likely. Best fit, Washington Commanders. With the Commanders making the transition to new offensive coordinator David Blau, Likely could replace free agent Zach Ertz as the middle of the field target for quarterback Jaden Daniels. Likely would bring more upside with his catch and run ability. A move player in the formation Likely would also be schemed to create underneath one-on-ones. He had 27 catches for 301 yards and a touchdown with Baltimore last year, and that was a down season for him. He's so much better than 27 catches for 301 yards. This is the guy that I wanted the tight end position if you can't get Kyle Pitts. And Pitts feels like he's not going to be available. And according to Matt Bowen, I think Isaiah Likely is better. Let's see how far. Pitts is 23rd. So he likes Isaiah Likely more than he likes Kyle Pitts. I like them both. I'd take either one of them. Likely always felt like he was going to make a beeline for New York, and that may still happen, to go reunite with his former head coach in Baltimore, John Harbaugh. But this is the kind of guy, and we've heard that the Commanders are going to have quote-unquote fireworks this offseason in free agency. We'll see. Like I said, they're off to a great start in terms of the quote-unquote fireworks with their coaching staff. Can they make some noise on the free agent market? I expect us to. There are a lot of fans that are very skeptical of Adam Peters and his willingness to spend money, and I get it. He earned that criticism with how he's approached free agency the first 2 years here in Washington. I think he did it strategically the first 2 years for different reasons. I think you're going to see a much more aggressive Adam Peters this offseason. Again, it's going to be aggression to a degree, right? It's not like he's not going to go out here and you name your price. This isn't Dan Snyder firing up Redskins 1 and giving out blank checks to every aging veteran that exists. This ain't that. But I do expect him to go out here and be aggressive in pursuing 2 or 3 guys, paying good money for them, and then getting out of there and then going bargain bin shopping like he likes to do. It's nothing wrong with that either. As long as you go out here and get some really good football players, you got to supplement the roster with some, lower scale guys. We need a ton of stuff. You can't spend top dollar on everything and go broke. So you got to find deals in here. If you told me that the Commanders were going to come away with the 3 players that Matt Bowen just said he thinks are great fits for them, in Isaiah Likely, Reek Woolen, and Quay Walker, if you told me that we came away with those 3 players in free agency, I'm going to be talking reckless. Because for Matt Bowen, that's 3 in his top 20. For me, that's 3 of the top free agents available, period. Let alone in free agency as a whole. You think about the list that we just looked at. I think Isaiah Likely is the first tight end we've seen on this list. Let's go back and just take a quick browse. He's the first tight end on this list. Quay Walker is the first linebacker on this list. And Reek Woolen, according to Matt Bowen, is the second cornerback behind Alontae Taylor on this list. I'd put him ahead of Alontae Taylor. But he's only 2 spots behind Alontae Taylor. So they're very close in Matt Bowen's mind in terms of where they are on this list. So you could be talking about the best corner in free agency, potentially, depending on who you ask. You could be talking about the best linebacker available in free agency, again, depending on who you ask. And you could be talking about one of or the best tight end in free agency, again, depending on who you ask. All of them are young. All of them are going into the prime of their careers. Reek Woolen, a little bit older than Quay Walker and Isaiah Likely, but still relatively young, still going into the prime of his career. These are the kind of guys that I am intrigued by, and I want to see this team sign in free agency. So just thought I would share that with you guys. Those are the kind of names that get me excited, that move the needle. I've been talking about Quay Walker. I've been talking about Reek Woolen. I've been talking about Isaiah Likely for the last month and a half. So to hear Matt Bowen say, hey, these would be great fits in Washington, absolutely they would. There's a bunch of other names that are on that list that would be great fits in Washington. We could use all the help we could get. But those 3 in particular would be major needle movers for this organization because they play positions that currently we don't have a number 1 at. We don't have a number 1 linebacker. We don't have a number 1 tight end. We don't have a number 1 corner. I believe Trey Amos is a number 2 corner and a damn good one potentially, but I don't think he's a number 1. I could be wrong, and he could turn out to be a hell of a number 1. I get the sense that he is an upper echelon number 2 corner. And if you could find a number 1 and look, for some of you guys have been, trying to get the LSU corner, that might be the move. And he may be your number 1 moving forward. And now you got a tandem of 2 young corners, both from the SEC that you've drafted in the first and second rounds, each of the last 2 years in the draft. And now you run with those 2 guys as your cornerstones at the corner position. I continue to try to communicate to y'all that in this defense, I think you can cut a corner. Pun intended. You can cut a corner with at the cornerback position. And so I don't think they're going to spend as big as we would like them to at corner. That's my mindset. I think they're going to spend at tight end. I think there's a chance that they spend at linebacker. I think they're going to spend a little something at running back. I don't think it's going to be a ton. It ain't going to be on a guy like K9, right? And they may spend a little something at receiver, just a smidge, not a ton. I think linebacker, tight end, those are positions that you usually don't have to overspend. Same with running back. I could see them being aggressive in those markets. Shouldn't cost you as much as it would to get a high-profile wide receiver or corner, et cetera, et cetera. So they may not be as aggressive in those markets. I could see them being aggressive in the tight end market. It's a really good one. I could see them being aggressive in the running back market. It's a really good one. And I could see them being aggressive in the linebacker market. I got to look and see. And then I also think if they're going to spend like top dollar, it might be an edge rusher. They may spend on an edge rusher. We'll see. That's another interesting position to keep an eye on, a watchful eye on. Anyway, I digress. All right, we'll get to the comment section real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Let's get a word from our sponsor, come back on the other side, see what you guys have to say, and then we'll bounce.
Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper.
All right, shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the stream. Let's get to the comment section real quick, and then we will get out of here. We got one comment here from MC Saba. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. MC Saba writes, "Hey, Lou, did you hear Chris Sims say our coordinator hires don't make sense and JD5 is disgruntled? Also, since Cliff won't be calling plays in LA, do you think Marcus will resign?" So, yeah, I heard Chris Sims say that. I didn't mention it to you because it didn't move me at all. Like, Chris Sims doesn't know anything about anything that's going on here in Washington. He might be basing that off of the conversation they had with Jaden at the Super Bowl, which, if that's what he's been, unless Jaden actually told him, which I doubt Jaden would confide in him and give him that type of information. He's doing what we do here. He's drawing an inference. He's, whatever vibes Jaden gave him, he's taking that and he's putting his spin on it, and he's saying, I don't think he's happy with it. He doesn't know. He doesn't know the relationship that Jaden has with David Blau. And I can tell you, look, we know that Jaden had a really good relationship with Cliff. We saw the tweet that his mom put out as soon as the season was over. So clearly Jaden was looking forward to working with him again next year, but it didn't happen. There's no tears being shed for Cliff Kingsbury no longer being here. Jaden's a big boy. He'll get over it if he hasn't already. And again, them hiring David Blau definitely softened that blow, but that's nor here nor there, right? Ultimately, the hires don't make sense if you're on the outside looking in because of everything that we've talked about leading up to those hires. Dan Quinn is coaching for his job, and he's coaching. And again, I think he's got a longer leash than some of you. Now, I told you some of the conversations about who who Adam Peters initially wanted, and that it feels like Dan Quinn was option C. Option A was Ben Johnson, option B was Mike McDonald, and I think Dan Quinn was option C. Ultimately, he's here, and I don't think he's looking to get rid of Dan Quinn again, unless next year is an abject disaster, because these are the guys that Quinn went out of his way to hire. Unless this season's another 5-12 fiasco, which I don't think it's going to be. As long as Jaden Daniels is healthy, there's no way this team is going 5-12. I assure you of that. Dan Quinn will be here. So I don't think he's in as much trouble as some may think. But ultimately, from the outside looking in, yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense, because you expected, which is what we expected, which I'm glad he bucked the trend. But the expectation was, oh, he's just going to hire some retread, some guy that's done it before, and give them the responsibility of calling the defense. He's going to hire some retread offensive coordinator to come in here as a veteran and, put together an offensive scheme that's going to get Jaden under center, this, that, and the third. And he didn't do that. He went out here, he got two newbies, two guys that have never done it. And that's risky, is what it is. Call a spade a spade. That's risky. And we talked about it. He rolled the dice. So for someone on the outside looking in, yeah, these hires don't make any sense. Either they're going to work and guys like Chris Sims are going to have to eat crow, or Chris Sims will be vindicated. He will come back and say, when those hires were made, I came on here and I said they didn't make sense. And you see what happened. Either way, Dan Quinn swung for the fences this offseason. And I've already said this. I'm going to continue to say this. I commend him for that. I commend him for that. Because he could have done the easy thing. He could have done the easy thing. And we did talk about Marcus re-signing here the other day. Because Cliff is not calling the plays in LA, that offense isn't going to change drastically. I don't see Marcus wanting to follow Cliff to LA. Now, again, Cliff may have some influence there. I think Sean likes Jimmy Garoppolo, who's the current backup there in LA. If I'm not mistaken, he's still there. And also felt like they had, I think Trey Lance is in LA with the Chargers, not the Rams. I think it's Jimmy Garoppolo that's the backup there. I could be wrong. But, I mean, there's a chance that Cliff gets into Sean McVay's ear and says, hey, man, you guys trying to win the Super Bowl. You need a competent backup. Marcus is your guy. But I just feel like the offenses are so different with what McVay would call for Matthew Stafford versus what would be more comfortable and fit for Marcus Mariota. Whereas if he stays here, it's the offense they call for Jaden is the same offense you would call for Marcus Mariota, if that makes sense. I truly believe Marcus is going to choose this culture, that locker room, these guys in this situation over chasing Cliff Kingsbury. I truly believe that this is home for Marcus now. He keeps talking about this is the best situation for him. And yes, he made it abundantly clear that he loves Cliff's offense. Well, they're not running Cliff's offense in LA. To your point, Cliff's not calling the plays. So it doesn't really make sense for him to go follow Cliff to LA. Anyway, I digress. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up, take command. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. And at some point this week, I'm going to have a comprehensive list of free agents. Maybe tomorrow night, we'll see, as we start to go through these free agents with a fine-tooth comb, figure out what this team is going to try and do, who's available, what makes the most sense. We'll probably split it into each side of the football, offensive and defensive, and try to, because we need a lot. And every single name that this team signs isn't going to be a high-profile, big target free agent. It's not going to be a guy that's going to get you excited. There's going to be some more one-year deals, guys, just so we're clear. Like, I hope you don't expect him to just all of a sudden start signing guys to 2, 3, and 4-year deals like his mind's gone bad, because that's not going to happen. There's going to be a bevy of one-year deals given out again, but what's going to give it substance is if you've signed enough multi-year contracts to guys going into the prime of their career that are going to help upgrade this roster from an age, athleticism, and talent standpoint. Something that they didn't do last year, really, outside of Laramie Tunsil for the most part. The first year they came in here, and while there were a bevy of one-year deals given out, they upgraded this roster with a slew of guys that were signed to multi-year deals. Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz, Frankie Louvu, etc. They didn't do that last year. Last year, they thought they were close, and so they made 2 moves in trades, one for Laramie Tunsil, the other for Deebo Samuel, in conjunction with the trade they made at the deadline for Marshawn Lattimore. That was them saying we're going all in. They weren't really looking to bolster this roster last year. This year I think it's going to be different. Rocky D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Rocky D writes, Commander Kings tonight? No, Rocky. If the Kings were going to be on tonight, I wouldn't be here talking to you on my channel. I'd be on that channel. Kings generally don't start this late. You might be on the West Coast and it might still be early for you, but for those of us on the East Coast, it's already almost 10:30. If with the Kings, come on now, if we start that late, Ed would already be halfway asleep by now. There's no way we could start this late and pull off a quality show and keep Ed awake. We'd have to start that way earlier than 10:30. So no Kings tonight. I think right now we're leaning towards Thursday. That's the date or the day of the week that we're targeting for this week. But again, it's the off season. Everybody's schedule is wonky right now. So, we'll see if we can get everybody on one accord and make that happen. But that's what it feels like right now. Thursday feels more plausible, but definitely not tonight. Anyway, I digress. So you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. And like I said, we're going to start really hammering free agency because I'm looking up and February is almost done. It's crazy how fast. Once the combine hits, this thing is going to go in like fast forward. So I really got to get my ass in gear. I've really got to turn it up because I still haven't even really started to look at the draft. But once I start digging into the draft, then it's all draft all the time. And I get through a pretty good chunk of these prospects. But got a lot of work to do. I probably should knock down this free agency stuff so I can start turning my attention to the draft and get I say a head start, but I'm actually late. But it'll be a head start for me because generally my first exposure to these players is usually the combine. Every year. That's usually when I start with the 3-hour phone conversation that Daniel Jeremiah used to be Michael Mayock that used to do it, but now that Jeremiah is the lead analyst, draft analyst for NFL Network, he does the conference call with the media and he answers every question. And it's like 3 hours long. And that's usually my first introduction into the draft, and then I go from there. I start taking notes. I start doing everything, and then boom, we're off and we're running, and we're getting close to that point now. Timothy Swindell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Timothy writes, Lou, why do I feel like the combine snuck up on me? I'm telling y'all, I'm telling you, it's gonna get here before you know it. February is such a weird month, right? Because it's abbreviated. It just, I don't know. It feels like this month is flying by. Like it's already February 17th. It's only 27 days in this month. Anyway, to begin with, just feels like February is flying by. Do you have guys you're eager to do certain drills? I doubt Love will run, but I'd love it if he did. I don't have anybody right now that I'm looking to see anything. That'll probably be more along the lines of next week where I start having those type of conversations, because that's when I'll start to do my preliminary, dive into the draft. What guy, like there's certain guys that, of course, is he fast? Is he not fast? Like Caleb Downs, I don't think he's going to run the combine, but I keep being told he's not going to test well. Okay. What does that mean? I would love to put a number to that, but he's probably going to wait till his pro day. That's what these guys do now, right? Like if you're a tremendous athlete and you want to showcase that for everyone to see, you're going to go to the combine and blow it up. That's what it's made for, right? You go there, you kill it, everyone's buzzing, and now you've solidified your standing in the draft as a top 10 prospect. But if you're not like that athletically, you're not going to go to the combine. Or test. You're just going to go there, do the interviews, support your teammates, and then you're going to work out at your pro day where every number is inflated. So I'm always excited when guys just decide to perform at the combine because so few guys do it anymore. It's a business decision, and I get it. Because if you go there and you don't kill it, even though we always say you still have your pro day to fall back on, it still leaves a nasty taste in people's mouths if you go to the combine and you throw up all over yourself. But we've seen guys throw up at the combine, go to their pro day, clean it up, and it's like the throw up never happened. Allen Robinson, that happened to. Teddy Bridgewater, yikes. That might be the worst pro day we've ever seen. So his was kind of the reverse. But Joe Hayden, came out, tried to give it a go, ran really slow, cleaned it up. We've seen guys clean it up, but it's just a different day and age now. These agents are involved, and they're telling these clients, hey, do not do anything but interview at the combine. It just doesn't help you. They're not wrong. It just sucks from a consumer product standpoint. And then also for us who just want to see, you would like to be able to see it, and you just don't get to see it that much anymore. I wonder how fast Jeremiah Love is. That's a great question because I think he's fast. I know he's fast. I don't think he's Jahmyr Gibbs fast, though. He's not Devin Achane fast. So I wonder how fast he really is. That's a great question. He'll probably run at his pro day. I doubt he runs at the combine. Doubt it. The guys that I usually want to see, and they never do it, are the edge rushers. You want them to run the 3-cone. You want them to run the short shuttle. They usually don't, because that gives you the bend, the athleticism, the change of direction, the explosiveness. You get all of that in those drills, and there's a definitive number that tells you if a guy is going to be like that at the next level. And guys just don't even do those drills anymore because they know that those numbers are very telling. But if you know you can kill it, like if you've been testing, prior to the combine and you're killing that drill, you're going to do it. You're going to do the drill because you know that number is going to stand out. So, yeah. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up, take command. So we got the pump fake from our guy, Jake Olsen. He is not going to be a part of this Commander's defensive staff, but it does, to me, leave the door open for them to bring someone else in here. It feels like they're going to fill that void. They're not going to leave their defensive pass game coordinator position vacant or fill it with someone that's already on the roster and give them double duty. I think they're going to bring someone from the outside in. And if Jake Olsen is any indication of where Durante Jones is leaning, maybe be able to bring another guy in from the collegiate ranks. Again, we don't know if that was Durante Jones just really feeling good about Jake Olsen in particular because crossing paths with him and really feeling like this guy gets it, or if he's just searching through the collegiate ranks in general. Guess we're going to find out over the next couple of weeks as they continue to fill out the staff. In any event, you guys have a good one. Take care, and I will see you guys next time. God bless. Good night.